Happy 4th of July weekend, everyone. We had a short day in the stock market today, and we have the day off tomorrow. So we got a 3.5 day weekend from the stock market. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. Quantum had a nice day. D-Wave again had, I believe it's third or fourth day in a row of nice upside. Rigetti had another nice day. We're going to look at 5 total tickers. We're going to look at BigBear.ai, SOFI, Rigetti, D-Wave, and we're going to look at QUBT, Quantum Computing Inc. We also just got news that the big beautiful bill has been passed in the House. So it looks like that landmark piece of legislation is going to be signed into law. The S&P and NASDAQ were also at all-time highs. So we have a lot to cover. We're going to jump right in. Let's get going. So NVIDIA stock closed at record highs as the AI chip maker neared being crowned the most valuable company in history. Pretty crazy to see that. The S&P 500 and the NASDAQ clinch records for the third time this week as optimism sweeps Wall Street. US stocks posted fresh records on Thursday as investors digested a stronger than expected June jobs report. That same job report dampened hopes for a Fed Reserve interest rate cut as soon as this month. A very controversial piece of legislation, the big beautiful bill, was sent to the president for his signature Thursday after a record-setting and emotional debate over a piece of legislation that will be felt across the economy for years to come. The final vote was very close, 218 to 214, with just 2 Republicans voting no in the end. The depth and breadth of our current stock market and how well it's doing, it's so nice to see, especially after April lows and all the fears that were market-wide. We're seeing lots of diversification. We're seeing lots of different sectors of the market doing well. We're seeing days where value stocks are having nice days. We're seeing days where tech stocks are doing well, semiconductors are doing well. We've just had a nice few weeks in the stock market. NVIDIA is almost the most valuable company ever. Microsoft continues to have a banner year. Apple is coming out of its slump or just kind of sideways trading for a long time, and it's starting to have some nice momentum. Meta's doing well. Amazon's doing well. Oracle, the stock just seems to be going up and up and up. I wish I held shares of Oracle. I feel like I missed the boat on that one. And Broadcom is also doing well. So heading over to the Quantum watch list, we can see that D-Wave, after its ATM offering, which I've covered in depth, if you want to take a look at that video, check it out. D-Wave had another 5% day. So I believe this is the 4th green day in a row. So the dip for D-Wave is definitely being bought up. Rigetti had another 3% day. We saw D-Wave and Rigetti both get price targets from Cantor Fitzgerald. I gave my own price targets and they're even more bullish than Wall Street, but I'm just a guy, but hey, who knows? We'll see who's right. QUBT is at $21 a share, which is crazy to say. And it's been added to the Russell 2000. And we're going to look at QUBT. Quantum Emotion is hanging around. You know what? I want to look at Quantum Emotion's chart as well, because we've been talking about Quantum Emotion a little bit. So we're going to pull up QNCCF as well. So we're going to cover all of those. Let's jump in and see what's going on. We're looking at 6 months of Rigetti, and Rigetti's holding this nice uptrend, this rising support, the imaginary blue line. And we closed today kind of in the middle of this zone. So we're between 1533 and 11. And Rigetti spent quite a bit of time in this zone, even going back to early May to now. So it's gone up and pushed almost to 15. So Rigetti has rejected off of 15 many times. So I'm very curious to see what happens with Rigetti if it's able to continue this bullish momentum. Will it come up and reject and come back down to this rising support and continue walking up? Or with this new price target, will Rigetti break through 15? And could we see Rigetti start to look for its all-time highs again? Now, there's not a lot of price history above 15. So I think once it breaks 1533, think it's a different conversation with Rigetti. So if you're a momentum trader, day trader, or any sort of investor, 1533, set a price alert because that is a critical level for Rigetti. All right, so D-Wave, QBTS. Now, D-Wave was in a downtrend for pretty much most of June. And a lot of us were wondering what's going on with D-Wave, what's happening? Well, they were busy raising $400 million at an ATM, and they were doing it at a premium. So 149% of the premium they received at their last ATM. And now they're sitting on a cash position of $815 million. And this is a huge, substantial change. This company has been in business for a very long time. And suddenly, instead of $50 million of cash and equivalents, they're on almost $1 billion of cash and equivalents. There's a ton of momentum that they have built in 2025 with the released research, their computer sale, their installation of computer sales around the world. I'll show you a map of where the Advantage 2 systems are installed. I think there's more to come in 2025 for D-Wave, which is why I released my price target of $40 a share. I'm going to put that video up on the screen if you'd like to go check that out. So where are we? The buying that was probably there all along is now actually appreciating the shares again. So we're seeing now at 1679, which is about right in between this 1512 to 1813 channel. So we're right in the middle, kind of like Rigetti in that channel where there is a considerable amount of price history. This is the luxury of the stock trading up here in the teens for so long, is we're comfortable seeing these numbers for D-Wave. Now the question is, can D-Wave push its all-time highs? So what I'm watching out for, and a big number that's on my mind, is 1813. If D-Wave can break through 1813 and start using 1813 as support, I think it could push that and test its all-time high. Now, if macro or markets, or if we go risk off, or if there's some sort of black swan event or anything like that, then of course D-Wave could go back down, and it could even fill this gap and go down further. I think another thing on my radar, and anyone who's investing or considering investing in D-Wave, is their Q2 revenues. We don't have an idea if they're going to be able to repeat the success of Q1. Wall Street tends to be short-sighted. I could see investors getting frustrated if they came back with a smaller revenue number than their last quarter. And that's entirely possible if they don't have the anomaly of their computer sale. So in that case, I think we would see something like a retracement down to the rising support. But I believe the dip will be bought, and the dip will be bought aggressively, and the stock would move back up. That's just my opinion. I'm just a guy. I'm not a financial analyst or a professional. This is for entertainment and education purposes only. All investments carry risk, especially quantum stocks. So make sure that you keep that in mind as we talk about this. But I find that D-Wave is in a very interesting spot, and it's not too far away from all-time highs. This is an important close. It shows us that there's a lot of bullish sentiment for D-Wave and a lot of strong price action. All right, SoFi. So I've been talking about SoFi for a long time, and I even picked up 2027 leaps all the way down here in April for SoFi. And those are up hundreds of % at this point. But what's happened since this April low is we've seen 117% appreciation in the stock. And as I previously predicted, this $18 level, we've already moved through. And what I've talked about before is I wasn't really looking at that $18 level. While it's a factor, I think I'm more interested in what I'm predicting is SoFi wants to get back to its earlier highs from 2021, that 24, 25, 26 price point, which I personally think would be a more fair price point for the amount of money that this company makes. So SoFi is looking really good. If we look at the last month, we've just been steadily walking up So if we were to draw a rising support that accounted for the bottoms since April, we can see there are multiple rising support touches on the way up around the 14s, 13s, 12s. Now, what's happened is there's some FOMO coming in. People know that earnings are coming up. So now the trend has actually accelerated. We're actually moving up at more of an accelerated pace. So that is also why I think it's very possible we start to see 20 plus from SoFi sooner rather than later. So keep SoFi on your watch list. I'm still very bullish and a long-term investor in SoFi. So retail loves BigBear.ai. I love BigBear.ai. I've been in BigBear.ai since back there. I've been on the roller coaster ride. I think we're all kind of wondering, are we going to go back to that $10 number and then just shoot back down like we did in March? I personally, if I had to guess, I would say this time is a little bit different. I think there's more. We have new leadership. We have cleaned up financials with BigBear. There are so many verticals, and we know that some of the revenue from Q1 was not in the bank yet. So they're going to carry that forward. So Q2 revenue is pretty much in the bag for BigBear. And I think that BigBear has a lot of enthusiasm. There's an aura around it. And this candle that we saw, this parabolic straight up candle, was more likened to a pump and dump, whereas lately these candles have been more like, if we look at the last 3 months, we've been stair-stepping up a little bit more healthy. So we have certainly accelerated. We were along this rising support. In early April, the stock could be picked up for, I believe, less than $4 a share, even in the threes. And now we're at this point where the market's decided, okay, we're sending BigBear up. Now the question is, what happens next? And I do think that there's not a lot of resistance ahead for BigBear. I think there's a lot of people talking about BigBear. Big YouTube channels are talking about BigBear. Jim Cramer, I think, talked about BigBear. I think filling this gap is entirely possible, retesting all-time highs. And I think we've got a good quarter of revenue coming. So unless there's a black swan event, BigBear is looking really good. And maybe 10 is just the beginning for BigBear. If we look back to all-time highs, we can see that at one point, BigBear was a $16 stock. So can BigBear wander its way back? Wouldn't that be a sight to see? There's still a lot of catalysts. There's still a lot of gas in the tank left for BigBear. So keep BigBear on your radar. Volume looks good and it's pushing up, and I'm bullish. Quantum Computer Inc. So I don't talk about this stock all the time. I don't talk about Quantum Computer Inc., QUBT all the time. I'll give you guys my honest answer. I've reached out to Quantum Computer Inc. directly. I didn't get a response. Also on their earnings call, they answered one question, which I thought, I'd like to hear more from the company. The photonics-based quantum computing has a lot of promise. So if we look back at 6 months and we see the quantum frenzy, and they were trading at 27.50, and then they actually held this 17.50 for a little while before they dropped down even further. And they came all the way down to $5 a share, and investor sentiment was completely washed out. So now, just if you had bought this dip in March, you're up 370%. Looking at the 5-year chart, we can see this stock has pumped a few times and then dumped. And it's been down in the penny stock range. And lately investors have been piling in. It's included in the Russell, and it looks like it wants to go and test that $27 all-time high on QUBT. All right, and our final stock of the day, Quantum Emotion. So I do have a position in Quantum Emotion, and Quantum Emotion is the QRNG play in my portfolio. So to sum up quantum random number generating, it's very difficult to do random numbers with classical computing. With quantum and the quantum states, it's a little bit easier. And they're specializing in QRNG technology. And looking at the chart, this stock was a penny stock, dime, less than a dime, a nickel a share. And it's exploded up with the quantum frenzy. It went down to 30 cents. And then recently they had this huge jump, which has held. As you can see, this key psychological level of $1 has held. They had this jump when they started fabricating their chips with TSMC, a $1 trillion company. If you believe in quantum RNG and you're okay with the risk of losing your entire investment, QNCCF is an interesting ticker to look at. Now, I think this is way riskier than even the risky quantum stocks we talk about all the time, but I have made a position for myself. And what I'm looking for with QNCCF is, I don't think this 147 is so far out of reach. I think that there was some sell-off, and then it dipped under $1 for a little bit. So we're gonna actually draw out that key $1 level. But if we get a little closer to the chart, we can see that QNCCF is holding an uptrend, and it's had a couple bounces, and it's moving its way up, and it might even be getting a little bit more bullish. So it's gone up to 140 a couple times. We're going to draw another line there because that seems, and we're kind of in maybe a weak bull flag here where there's been some consolidation. Very promising volume candle there if we look at the past few trading days. And overall, since the move, we're getting kind of close to the middle of this wider channel. So after the pump to $1.47, we're kind of in the middle. We're sitting squarely in the middle at that $1.28. So it makes me think that quantum emotion could get bullish on us and past its all-time highs. All right, guys, so we just did 6 stocks in about 20 minutes. I like to be in depth with my coverage, so I hope you enjoyed this content. It does take a while to create, so I would really appreciate a like. And if you want to subscribe, we'll see you in the next one.